Good afternoon. My name is Alyssa Bell. I am the head of operations and systems for Pyxis Care Management. In today's society, we see an elevation in the elder population that is focusing on aging in place and the incorporation of technology within their homes. So today we actually want to take time to highlight not only the 5 aspects of holistic care in Pyxis Care Management, but the environmental aspect and what that looks like in terms of aging in place. So imagine that you're tasked with a situation where your loved one wants to age in place, or whether it's yourself that wants to age in place. And you want to make the best decision to be able to not only ensure security, but as well as safety in your actual home environment. This task and many decisions behind this task can be overwhelming to some. Fortunately, within today's time frame, that we have access to a lot of smart home technology that helps the decision become more clear to those that are involved. So today, we actually have an expert that has researched and invested time in studying not only patient safety in the elder population, but as well as incorporating technology within a home setting. Please join me in welcoming our Aging in Place and Smart Home expert, Professor Kathy Daniel. So, Ms. Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes, I'm happy to share that. I've been a registered nurse in Texas since many years now, the late 70s. Then I went back to school in the 80s, became an advanced practice nurse in the early 90s, and started to practice as a clinical nurse specialist with older adults, then became a nurse practitioner when nurse practitioners gained prescriptive authority in the mid-90s, practiced in clinical practice in primary care for older adults, as well as long-term care and house calls from the 90s into the 2000s. I went back for a terminal degree in research as a PhD in nursing in 2004. And I've been a faculty member here at UTA since 2007, graduating with my PhD in 2008. So that's my kind of background in a nutshell. When I was a registered nurse, I worked mostly inpatient critical care, and then in an outpatient practice since the 90s in primarily Medicare age, primary care, so internal medicine, geriatrics, mostly. So.
And in more recent news, we've actually come across some publications for the UTA Smart Department, if I'm correct. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
In 2014-15, we received a HRSA. It was managed by HRSA, but it was a congressional, came straight through Congress, line item funding to support the development of a smart care laboratory, which was to innovate, apply, explore technology applications that could help older adults remain safely in their homes in the community so that they wouldn't need to move into a more institutional setting, and they could be safe and age in place in their homes. So we started on that project at about 2015. It took several years to really develop, and we used the funds to build and develop and install and create a smart care apartment. My colleagues are in computer science engineering, and since this was early stage development, we actually built and created a lot of it ourselves. We were very fortunate to find a community-based partner who was very interested in the work we were doing. So they provided us an apartment that we still have, and we have fitted out with many of the smart care type of technology, and over the years that's changed. Okay, so it's evolved since we first started, and we're still closely involved with this community. It's Lakewood Village retirement community. It's in East Fort Worth. It's a part of the community, the Christian care communities of North Texas.
Awesome.
It is a faith-based, not-for-profit organization, and they share their interest in this by providing us with an apartment for almost no cost. We couldn't do it without them.
Good deal. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the examples of the smart technology that's in the apartment?
The technology we're most proud of, that we think is so unique, we've developed, is a smart floor with sensors under every square foot of the floor, so that we can capture continuous data, not discrete one moment in time, but continuous data about individuals who live in the apartment. We can capture gait and balance information and trend it to see how that changes over time. We can capture weight continuously to see if it's either an upward trend or a downward trend. And we can capture activity patterns and kind of the degrees of activity, things like gait speed, and I already mentioned balance. So that one product does a whole lot of things, and it's very it's built into the environment. It's not anything a person would be obviously know is there or see is there. It's just part of the background. It's part of the floor. Okay.
Right. And in today's day and age, do you feel that knowledge about smart care devices and smart home devices is important? And if so, why?
I do. I think people are adopting many smart care technologies independently. They're really coming to market now, and there are many available. Sensors can be placed in the environment very easily, and they're commercially available. There's lots of products out on the market. You can get as high-tech or as basic as you want. Little webcams that hook into Wi-Fi, and granny cams, or they're also used as baby cams. They're the same product. They're easy to adopt. They're easy to use. Don't take a lot of technology to understand. Cameras are easy, and microphones are easy, but they are more invasive of a person's privacy. So there's a lot more resistance to them by the older adults. They want to be watched, and I understand that. So other kinds of technology, motion detectors, things like the detectors, the pressure sensors under the floor, are much less obvious and preserve a person's privacy a little more. But there's new products on the market almost every day that have different types of sensors built into them. The cars that are coming to the market today have tons of sensors. They park for us. They keep in the lane for us. They do so many things that you couldn't even imagine 5 or 10 years ago.
Right.
And they're just built into the car.
Right, that's the world we're coming to.
But you need to get it to work for you.
So overall, you would say that smart home technology is a good investment?
I think it is, but I think one of the things we do have to realize and understand with technology, and we know this, it is evolving rapidly. It changes, and the technology updates and upgrades and becomes obsolete rapidly. So it's constant balance of making a big investment in something that might be obsolete in 5 years. And it's a little bit of a kind of guessing game at this stage as to what is going to still, have staying power and be able to be upgraded and updated without having to be replaced. Because it can be expensive.
Oh, yes.
And the installation can be expensive. The other kinds of issues that happen with a lot of the technology that have to be considered is power source, okay? So a lot of the wearables kinds of things that, have to be recharged and on a regular basis or they don't work, okay? Mm-hmm. So the user has to take care of the technology. The kinds of technologies that are built into an environment need to have their own power source. So they're not reliant on a battery that has to be replaced or recharged. Okay. But then that makes it more complicated in terms of installation.
Understandable. So as a member of Pyxis Care, we're actually in the development phase for our service add-on. It's actually called Pyxis Smart. Mm-hmm. And the emphasis behind that is having a technology advocate that can make that transition into an independent living situation more easier. At the same time, it actually allows for the elder community to not only be comfortable with technology, but also have the knowledge that they need to operate technology. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, I want to ask you, if you had your perfect smart home setup, what kind of devices would you necessarily put into that setup?
It's hard to imagine. I think we already have a lot of opportunity to use, voice activated types of technologies today. A whole lot of things can be connected to Alexa and activated that way. It's hard to kind of imagine where we're going with some of these things. So I'm not sure that I can answer that really well because I'm not able to predict what we're going to have in 10 years.
Good answer. Okay, if you could list or name the most influential factors for smart home conversion that the elderly community tends to consider, what would that be?
I think one of the principles that we really need to consider, and more we are, which is universal design in building homes for all of us, for everyone. And that will enable us as we age to stay in our home because it's already accessible. As our needs change, the home is already ready for that. Things like wider doors, things like, step in, step out, or actually roll in, roll out showers without thresholds. High-boy toilets where you don't have to squat to get on and off of them. Those kinds of things for people with bad knees and bad ankles. That's a big difference. All of those things are really important. Electrical outlets that aren't at the floor, where you need to plug in something. It's reachable without, fear of tipping over when you go to plug something in. Light switches that are accessible. All of those kinds of things that are standards for how a home is built. I think as our industry and our community standards adopt more of those, that will enable a lot of the basics for anyone to stay in a home for a long time. Thresholds that don't require step up and step down to enter a home and to exit a home. Transitions between the garage and the house that are seamless. Houses that are multiple levels, we need to rethink those. We need to probably not build those anymore. If it's a multi-story home, and we're seeing this more and more, homes either there's kind of in the plan for the way the house is built, there's a space like a closet on 2 floors that can be have a lift or an elevator installed in them, so that as a person gets to where stairs are a problem for whatever reason, then you could have a small elevator installed and you could stay in the home.
Right.
Okay.
So what advice would you give to a doubtful consumer on the smart home conversion process?
Do it one thing at a time. Check it out. Make sure you're good with it. And after you're comfortable with it, consider other products. You don't have to bring in everything, just the things that either help you or work well for you. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to have a totally automated home. This isn't George Jetson. But get the things that make your life easier and safer and better.
Okay, so we touched on a few of the, fear factors, if you will. What would you say are the top 3 benefits to having the smart home conversion?
Safety, connectivity with you set that up for who you want to be connected to, whether it's your adult children, whether it's your parents, your siblings, your best friends. You set those things up, those relationships, so you stay connected with those who are important to you. That's probably the number one safety thing with any of this. You're in control, and you set it up like you want it.
Great words, great words. Well, I definitely want to thank you for sharing a little bit with us and giving us time. And of course, sharing your expertise as well as your advice when it comes to aging in place, as well as the smart home process.
Okay.
So we greatly appreciate your feedback. And hopefully by watching, you've picked up on some useful information about what it means to truly age in place, as well as incorporate smart home technology within your setting. On behalf of Pyxis Care Management, we encourage you to bridge the connection between yourself or your loved one with technology as they actively choose to age in place.